What's good, family? It's your boy Old Soul J, and I'm back with another video. Just to give a little quick recap of what I went over in the first video. I went over 5 signs. I went over your sun sign, I went over your rising sign, your moon sign, your Venus sign, and your Mars sign. Now, I stress to people so much is before you go talking about or giving your opinion on your birth chart on astrology, you need to know your entire chart. You can't just know one sign out of 11 placements. You feel what I'm saying? So now, just to give a quick recap. So the ones that I went over, right? Your sun is more about your personality, your ego, who you are on the surface, just your humanity, your human self, just more so your personality anyway. Your rising sign or ascendant sign is more about how you appear to others. That's usually people's first impression of you, or how you act towards people you don't really know like that. You know what I'm saying? Now, your moon sign is more about who you are in your emotions, your inner deeper self. You know, who you are with yourself, by yourself, or you know, if somebody's really close to you, they'll be able to see your moon side. That side of you will open up more. So your Venus is more about how you love, the way you express yourself through love. And your Mars is how you deal with life, how you go after things, or how you approach things, right? Now, one thing I want to mention really quickly, a great analogy that I love about your rising, your moon, and your sun is that your rising sign is more like how your house looks on the outside. Let's say you're the house, right? It's how the house looks from the front view, the outside of it. The sun sign is when you walk in and you see the living room, you see the form, the structure, how everything is set up. And your moon sign is more so either your bedroom or your closet. You feel me? And the part of your house that probably when people come over, they're not gonna not normally see unless y'all are close. So now that now that we did a little recap of the first 5 signs, we're gonna talk about the rest of the chart. And when I say the rest of the chart, it's not necessarily the entire chart. It's just really the main placements and the signs, or the main signs and their placements in your chart, or not in your chart, but in the regular Western astrology chart. Shout out to Kyrie Ricks, because he commented on part 1 of this series, or the video before this, basically saying, what would you recommend, Vedic or traditional Western? And he said that he heard Vedic was more accurate. And I've heard the same thing. And I've also looked at my Vedic chart, but I have not looked at it as deep as I've looked at my Western chart, to be honest, because I found out about Vedic astrology way after I knew my Western chart, and my Western chart was pretty spot on for me. So I didn't really have the desire to look more into my Vedic, but I did, because, you know, and I will look more into it in the future, because, it, you know, if so many people say that it's more accurate, I got to see what it's about. But from what I did see, it was accurate. I just felt as though Vedic astrology is a deeper science, and it's just more detailed. So Western astrology for me though was completely accurate, but you can say it's a little bit vague. But because there's so many placements and they all mean different things, you could put it together and it becomes a lot less vague. It becomes more specific. But yes, Vedic astrology is more specific. But in the future we will be talking more about Vedic astrology. But for right now, like I was saying, let's talk about the Mercury's placement. So I don't want to spend way too much time, because understand this, family, the whole reason why I made these 2 videos was for you to look into it for yourself, for those of the people who don't know, you know, who are not that into it, right? So I'm not gonna talk about my placements like I did in the first video. I'm not going to get that deep into it. I'm not about to tell you my entire chart. You feel what I'm saying? But I'm just going to tell you what they mean really quickly. So your Mercury is how you think. That's more about like how you communicate. Just when it comes to pure like logic or intellect, it's how your thought process goes on. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, we spoke about how the heart is the moon, the personality or the ego is the sun, the Libra is how you initially come off, right? The Venus is how you love. You know, Mars is how you go about life, how you approach things, go after things, and the Mercury is your mind, is how you think. So your Jupiter, like as y'all may know, Jupiter has a lot to do with like luck, good luck, You know, so Jupiter is more about, like, knowing your Jupiter placement is helpful to you to know what you should do to attract abundance, right? It shows how a person attracts abundance. Like, that's how you attract abundance. That's the lane you go in. It's about what type of opportunities are best for you and what actually inspires you. So Saturn. So look, maybe some of y'all have heard about your Saturn return. You know, Saturn is all about discipline. You know, a lot of people that are into astrology, they run away when they hear the word Saturn. You know, me personally, I've been looking at my my astrocartography, which for those of y'all who don't know, it basically is saying, like, based on your birth chart, what energy, like, depending on where you're at in the world, what city you're in and things of that nature, what energy will influence you the most. And, you know, a lot of people avoid the Saturn energy because it's a lot about discipline. It's a lot about teaching you lessons. You know, Saturn is that parent that, you know, if you're not doing what you're supposed to do, you know, Saturn's gonna let you know, like, you're gonna get disciplined, basically, right? So your Saturn placement, right, is more about the lessons you're meant to learn, the things that you're meant to, you know, be disciplined about, and like what type of tests you're gonna be facing. But it's also like something that, you know, if you do what you're supposed to do, basically, it's something you're supposed to master in this lifetime. You know, it's gonna be your biggest challenge because it's something that in this lifetime you wanted to master or you wanted to get right. You know what I'm saying? So Uranus, the planet, right? It changes signs every 7 years. So really what's complicated about it is you have the same sign basically every 7 years. Everyone in your generation that was born and within those 7 years has the same sign of Uranus. But what makes it different is more so what house you're in. This is when we get into the houses, right? And the houses is what's unique to you. You'll be able to understand this better once you've seen your actual chart. You just have to look at the house Uranus is in and what sign it is in based on your chart. That will all show for you. It's all very apparent. So Uranus, basically, that sign represents where do you want to rebel in, right? So like, where in life or what type of energy do you want to rebel in? It's where you want to express your individuality, want to shake things up a little bit, inspire some change there, right? So like, for example, for me, right now, I said I wasn't going to tell y'all all my signs for my whole chart, but for this one, because Uranus is a little complicated, right? Because you want to know your sign and your Uranus, tomato. You want to know your sign in Uranus, and you want to know your house in Uranus, because, or your house stays the same, but the sign changes depending on the generation, right? You want to look into that. Remember, this is to inspire y'all to look deeper into it. But for me, it's Aquarius. My generation of people, we belong to, so if you were born from 1996 to 2003, right? Because remember, I said this changes every 7 years. So if you were born like me between 1996 and 2003, you're Aquarius Uranus, right? And our generation is more about reinvention of newer systems. I speak so much about the system that we live in and the system that's conditioned us like this and that and the third. Our generation is meant to connect globally. You know, the internet is a big reason for this, is a big catalyst to help us do so. And we're meant to challenge outdated thinking, outdated belief systems, which is something that I'm doing every single day on social media. Something that I'm constantly, like, this is part of our purpose, baby. This is what we here for. You know what I'm saying? And I'm so connected with that. That's why I feel like a undying fiery drive to do what I came here to do. You feel me? So for Neptune, I'm also going to give the sign. So from 1984 to 2000, you are a Neptune in Capricorn, right? So some of y'all might be a little bit younger than that, right? I don't know what the sign is for that. For people who are older, you know, you can just find this out yourself. It's basically like what connects you, or what are you connected to that's beyond the material world, in a sense, right? This is when the astrology gets a little bit deeper. It's like where you find your compassion and your inspiration the most, and where you are like imaginative. And you know, it's also a place where you could become, you know, there's a saying, spiritually high, too spiritually high, that you're no earthly good, where you could use this form of escape, like as escapism. Like you could use this imaginative, creative part of yourself as escapism. So, you know, people who were born from 84 to 2000, that's a Neptune, a Capricorn. What our generation is mainly for is about building systems that speak about spiritual truth. You feel what I'm saying? It's kind of crazy that, you know, it's so apparent, as you can see, where this whole big spiritual movement is coming from. And it's so funny because in the 80s is where the whole new age, I spoke about this in my presentation video, where the whole new age thing came about because spirituality became mainstream. Now, if you were born 95 to 2008, you're a Pluto and Sagittarius, right? So now we're talking about the Pluto sign. So Pluto is about, you know, facing yourself, facing your shadow self, you know, shedding the old version of yourself. What that really just means, you know, for our generation is that we crave and we're inspired by freedom, truth, and, you know, like faith, like real faith, like faith in yourself, not blind faith. You get what I'm saying? So yes, family, I did not cover every little detail about astrology and your chart, but I did cover the basics. And this is really for you to dive deeper into understanding your chart, because it doesn't make any sense for me to dive deep. You can't really dive deep in it unless you are speaking of a specific person's chart. I'm not about to dive deep all about my chart. I already told y'all enough of that in the first video. You feel me? So it's really for you to dive deep into your own chart, to understand yourself deeper, because like I say so much, know yourself. Know your worth. Understand that you are not here for no reason. Astrology, numerology, these are things that can help you, give you a little bit of guidance along with your intuition, and along with you being present and aware of self and aware of the themes and aware of the signs and aware of the synchronicities and the patterns in your life, to understand your purpose, understand what you're doing here, and, you know, walk that path until it's time for you to transition on to the next. But that's all I gotta say for today, y'all. Make sure y'all like and subscribe. I love y'all.